The first drop is small enough to miss, yet you hear it anyway. A light tap at the edge of attention, like a knuckle on a distant door. The room is ordinary, a scatter of quiet corners and soft fabrics. But the rain begins to polish it, stroke. I stroke until everything looks newly invented. Trevor lies beside you, heavy with trust, his ribs rising and falling as if the night is breathing him. You match his rhythm without trying. In this unhurried beginning, your mind loosens its grip on the day and drifts. Clouds move like slow herds, their bellies full of stored conversations. As cool air lifts warm, moisture gathers into droplets, each one wrapping itself around a tiny mote of dust or salt. Coalescence the sky's arithmetic adds small to small until gravity persuades them down. The first drops fall far apart, drumming solitary syllables on the glass. You turn your head and watch the pane bead with tiny worlds. Surface tension rounds each droplet into a lens that flips the streetlight and the branch outside. When two beads touch, cohesion invites them to join, the larger drops sliding in a viscous curve that leaves a dark track behind. Trevor is the coastline against your leg, a warm border where your hand can rest. Sound arrives layered. There is the tick against glass, the brushed whisper on leaves, the hollow drip from the eave, and somewhere deeper, the velvet roar where water meets water in the gutter. Your ears sort frequencies the way hands sort stones by size. This is how the nervous system decides. Safe enough to soften. Trevor exhales a long ribbon of air and enters a stillness so complete you can hear it. You rest your palm on his side and feel a mild heat, a steady piston of breath. Touch sends a simple letter through your spinal cord, pressure here, warmth here, and the letter is forwarded to places where meaning lives. The insula reads comfort. The hippocampus tags the moment for keeping. Without ceremony, your heart agrees to beat a little slower. Rain has a way of tiding the mind. Part of it is masking, 1,000 small notes weaving a curtain that catches stray noises and thoughts before they can snag you. Part of it is story. Each drop begins, travels, lands, and vanishes. A perfect plot told with no characters at all. Neurons in the default mode network idle at a lower volume, and attention, freed from errands, looks around like a visitor in a quiet museum. Details reveal themselves, the lamp's chipped paint, the loose thread on the blanket, the shallow dent where Trevor's paw once pressed and stayed. You notice the room smells newer. Petrichor stone's perfume rises from sidewalks and soil. Microbial geosmin, stored during dry hours, is shaken loose by the first drops and sent upward in aerosols, the way laughter lifts across a table. Your nose, built for such messages, catches them at concentrations so small, a number can barely describe them. The scent meets memory so quickly, you cannot tell which arrived first. A porch from years ago, a tin roof, a bowl cooling by an open window. Breath becomes your metronome. Inhale, and the chest widens as the diaphragm lowers like an elevator carrying air to the basement. Exhale, and the car rises, returning space to the heart. With each easy cycle, the vagus nerve rests its hand on the system, applying a gentle brake. Heart rate variability tiny, healthy differences between beats, gains a little range, like a road with curves instead of rigid lines. You feel this not as data, but as softness. The sky thickens and the rain gathers confidence. Droplets that once spoke in single syllables begin to talk in phrases, then sentences, then a paragraph poured without haste. You could measure this in millimeters per hour. Your body measures it in other units. Eyelids lowering, shoulders loosening, the way thoughts stop arriving with sharp corners. Trevor shifts and presses closer, faithful to the map of warmth. You try an experiment in stillness. For 1 minute, you do nothing but count the gap between drops on the sill. It begins 1-2-3-4- tap, then shorter, 1-2 tap, and long again. Your mind cannot predict it, and because prediction fails gently, the urge to control fades. You are not the conductor. You are the audience. It feels like setting down a bag you forgot you are carrying. On the window, a larger drop bulges until weight overcomes adhesion. It releases and drags a dozen smaller drops into its wake, a clear comet with a tail of tiny moons. Behind it remains a path, darker than the pain, that slowly fills with other travelers. Physics is the script. Gravity is the stagehand pulling. Scenes along. You think of the day's conversations, their edges already softening in the weather. Words that snagged now slide. Problems reduced to questions, and questions to pauses. Rain is a tutor in pacing. It teaches the sentence to breathe between clauses, the heart to stand in the doorway before entering the next room. Even regret. That tireless narrator clears its throat and falls quiet to listen. Trevor's ear flicks. Perhaps a distant car has written a line in the wet street, or a branch has shaken off a burden. He does not wake. His stillness is not indifference. It is confidence in the watch kept by his senses. Smell will wake him if it must. So will sound. Tonight, neither asks. You return attention to the simplest thing, the next breath. Air moves. In cool, moves out warm. Somewhere inside, oxygen slips from alveoli to blood, a trade sealed across thin membranes, evolution pressed close as leaf to air. Carbon dioxide takes the return seat. Chemistry never rushes, yet it never forgets. The blanket holds your shape. Texture against wrist, weight on ankle, a small island of heat where Trevor's body meets yours. The urge to check a screen, list a task, rehearse a line, all of it dissolves in water, thinner than thread and stronger than rope. The present is a room you are allowed to occupy without ticket or permission. You could call this a transition. Wakefulness leaning toward a calmer wakefulness. A shore approached without the need to land. If sleep comes, it will be because the body recognizes this coastline and remembers the harbor. If it does not, the rain is company enough. You think of the chapter you are inside first of many, perhaps, and smile at the ordinary heroism of beginning. You did nothing special. You noticed. Noticing, it turns out, is the door most moments want you to use. The hinge is quiet. The room beyond is lit by weather. You let your eyes close. Rain writes on the glass with 1,000 wet pens. Trevor. Steady and sure is the margin where you rest your hand so the ink does not smear. The story can continue without you for a while. You have already entered it. Behind your lids, the sound grows larger and the world smaller. There is only breath, fabric, warmth, and the patient drumming of water meeting home. You exhale, and the night takes your answer like a promise it knows how to keep. Sleep well. You linger in the gentle hush, doing nothing more than listening. And in that simple pause, you begin to sense how doing nothing might be its own quiet art. You sit beside Trevor and watch him do nothing, and somehow that nothingness has texture. It feels like a shawl laid over a busy day, muffling edges, rounding corners. His eyelids hover. A breath slides in, slides out. Your own breath follows. The room is ordinary, but stillness turns it into a small planet with slower gravity, where everything falls gently and takes its time to land. Doing nothing isn't the same as being bored. Boredom pushes against the moment. Doing nothing lets the moment hold you. The difference shows in your body. Your shoulders loosen like soil after rain. The tiny muscles at your jaw stop volunteering for emergencies. Heartbeats spread out like footprints on a beach. What looks like idleness is actually rehearsal for balance. Your nervous system notices the lowered demand and whispers to the rest of you. We can stay dot, and that whisper lives a network older than your worries. When effort eases, the parasympathetic system steps forward like dusk entering a room no fanfare, just arrival. The vagus nerve, a long wandering thread, gathers signals from lungs and gut and sends back permission for calm. Slower pulse, softer breath, warmer hands. You feel them as friendliness in your own skin, as if the body is glad you came home. Trevor yawns without apology. You mirror him, and a small physics lesson unfolds inside. A yawn stretches the diaphragm, invites a deeper inhale, changes pressure in your chest. Blood returns more generously to the heart, and the heart answers by beating a little slower. Oxygen rises, carbon dioxide leaves, and the seesaw steadies. A simple act, almost nothing prunes the thorns from the moment. Your thoughts continue, but they drift rather than march. The mind's attention is like a lighthouse rotating over a quiet bay. As it turns away from problem solving, another neighborhood lights up. The default mode network, the brain's quiet workshop. Here, when you stop pushing, scraps of experience stitch themselves into meaning. Memory tidies its shelves. Feelings sort themselves by size. Insight condenses, like dew when air cools. You study the ceiling, its hairline cracks like tiny rivers. Doing nothing becomes noticing. You notice the balance between inhale and exhale, the way the pause after breathing. Out is a doorway you can stand in without going anywhere. In that pause, sensory noise dips, and the body hears itself. Interoception. The listening inward turns up the volume on small messages. Thirst arriving early. Fatigue asking in a gentle voice. Comfort blooming where you gave it room. The science of effort is easy to praise. The science of rest hides in plain sight. Muscles keep a baseline readiness called tone. When no action is required, tone settles. Fuel stops leaking into unnecessary contractions. Tiny power plants inside your cell's mitochondria work. Best when demand rises and falls like a tide, not a siren. Even your nerves benefit. With fewer signals to relay, they sweep their own paths. Preparing to carry tomorrow's news more cleanly, your brain idles at the shoreline between wake and sleep, where relaxed alpha rhythms wash in and out, and ideas wander barefoot, unhurried and unarranged. Trevor shifts. The mattress sighs, and you feel how environments cooperate with calm. The room's temperature sits a little cool, encouraging your body to release heat, telling vessels near the skin to open like evening flowers. You adjust the blanket. Thermoregulation joins the quiet choreography. It is not laziness but design. Less heat around the core is a prelude to deeper rest. The way dimmed lights are a prelude to stars. Doing nothing includes your senses. You let the rain find your hearing. Drops tap the window in irregular patterns, and your brain, a patient drummer, sinks to their average tempo. This gentle entrainment can pull your heart towards steadier beats. Heart rate variability grows, a humble metric of adaptability. When the intervals between heartbeats breathe, you do too. Flexibility replaces rigidity. Capacity returns without being chased. You remember a time when stillness felt like failure. It is different now. You notice how most growth in nature happens quietly, roots solving the dark without announcements. Skin knitting after a small cut with no audience. Planets drifting in ellipses without applause. Allostasis, the body's way of preparing for what might come, works better when it has chances to rehearse safe, low-demand scenes. Tonight is one of them. Your biology is practicing peace. Trevor's still gaze is not a command, but an invitation. You accept by setting down one mental object at a time, not forever, just for now. Each thought released returns a little energy. Adenosine, the chemical that tracks wakefulness, makes its case, and you listen by closing your eyes for a moment longer. In these pauses, glial cells, caretakers of the brain, manage waste, refresh the stage. Even without sleep, cleanup begins. Where pressure ends, doing nothing reveals edges you didn't know were sharp. You sand them with attention. You stack them neatly with perspective. The prefrontal cortex, your planner and judge, steps back half a pace, and circuits of empathy step forward. With that shift, self-talk softens. The story becomes less courtroom, more garden. You water what you want to keep. You let the rest lie fallow. You examine the shape of silence. It is not empty. It carries the hush between waves, the bracket around a sentence, the exhale that makes the next inhale possible. In physics, potential energy waits in the lift of a held object. In you, it waits in this gentle pause. Muscles remember ranges they can explore tomorrow. Joints rest in midline, reminding ligaments they do not have to prove anything. The body rehearses enough. Trevor does nothing, and because of that, you can do less. You try a small experiment. Place your hand on your chest and count 5 slow breaths, noticing how each breath is slightly different. Variation is life. On the 5th breath, a small sadness appears and does not need fixing. You let it sit like a guest who came only to watch the rain. Feelings metabolize when given oxygen and time. Neither can be rushed. The window hums faintly, wind passing like a low cello note. You consider how the brain, freed from constant alerts, can return to baseline and recalibrate what counts as threat. Over weeks, practices like this lower the alarm volume, making room for nuance. Even your immune system listens to the pace of your life. Too much hurry winds it too tight. Slower evenings teach it to answer proportionately, to distinguish drizzle from storm. Now you listen for the next gentle instruction. Follow breath. You open your eyes and find the room unchanged, and yourself subtly changed. Doing nothing has done something. The margins of the moment widen. You sense tomorrow approaching, but not demanding. The future will ask for effort. Tonight answers with ease. This is not quitting. This is the muscle of restraint, the discipline of pause, the art that looks like nothing and feels like everything. You linger with the breath as if it knows the way. In this quiet, you wonder what it might teach when you follow. The question stays open, like a door left softly ajar. The quiet has weight now, not heavy, but settled, like a blanket stitched from air and time. You lie still and listen, and beneath the rain, beneath the steady drift of your own breath, you hear it, the faint, patient rhythm of Trevor's heart. It is not loud, yet it fills the space between you. Each beat is a small drum in a vast, still room. You count without meaning to. 1, 2, 3, until the numbers dissolve and only the feeling remains. You notice how your body responds. Your own heart, which moments ago seemed to wander at its own pace, begins to slow. The rhythm between you tightens, not in speed, but in connection. It is as if both of you have been listening to a quiet conductor, and only now do you realize. You are part of the same orchestra. Heartbeats are more than mechanical pumps. Each one is an electrical wave, beginning in a small cluster of cells in the right atrium, called the sinoatrial node. These cells fire in patterns that keep time for the rest of the heart, like a lighthouse guiding the tide. But this timing is not locked. It listens to signals from the nervous system, to hormones, to the rhythm of your breath. It listens, too, to the subtle presence of others. There is a science for what you feel now. It is called physiological synchrony. When two bodies align their internal rhythms, often without trying. It happens between mothers and infants, between friends in deep conversation, between people sharing quiet moments like this one. Your breath lengthens. Trevor's does. 2. With each exhale, heart rate slows, following the natural sway of respiratory sinus arrhythmia. When you inhale, the vagus nerve loosens its gentle brake on the heart, letting beats quicken slightly. When you exhale, it presses again, slowing them. Back and forth, inhale to exhale, beat to beat, like rocking in a boat that doesn't need to go anywhere, The mind may not have asked for it, but the body welcomes it. Synchronizing with another's heartbeat can ease the load on your own cardiovascular system. It's as if two rowers have learned to match their strokes, each one finding the water more easily, less strain in the arms. Your chest feels lighter. Your jaw unclenches, and the rest of you follows. Trevor shifts slightly, and you feel the mattress carry the movement through your spine, a faint pulse of shared space. You imagine the blood traveling through his veins, bright with oxygen from each breath, delivering quiet instructions to every cell. Repair, renew, rest. Your own blood makes its own circuit, and in some unseen way, the two currents speak to each other. In nature, rhythms often meet like this. Fireflies in certain parts of the world blink in unison, not because they plan it, but because each adjusts slightly to the flashes nearby until all are aligned. Flocks of birds change direction together, following tiny shifts in their neighbors. Wing beats. Your heart and Trevor's, in this moment, are no different. Without speaking, they agree on a pace. You close your eyes and feel the way your ribcage rises and falls, how each heartbeat sends a soft wave to your fingertips. This is circulation, not just of blood, but of presence. Even when the mind wanders, the heart keeps its patient loop, out through arteries, in through veins, always returning, always beginning again. The heart is often seen as the center of emotion, and while it doesn't feel in the way the brain does, it sends constant updates about the body's state. Sensory nerves in the heart tell the brain whether things are calm or urgent, safe or uncertain. In these minutes, the message is clear. Nothing needs changing. You are safe enough to rest. A memory drifts in, not sharply, but like something seen. Through water, another time you listen to a heartbeat, perhaps as a child resting against someone's chest, the sound anchoring you against a world too large. That sound, steady and without demand, taught you something then that you only now begin to name. You do not have to earn stillness. Sometimes it is given freely, like a rhythm you are invited to join. Your breathing and Trevor's have found the same arc now. Inhale together. Exhale together. This synchrony is not about perfection. There are still small mismatches, like pebbles in a smooth path, but the overall motion is shared, and the body loves patterns. Predictability lets muscles soften, lets hormones like cortisol drift. Down, lets immune cells go about their quiet repairs without the interruption of alarms. You imagine the heart not as a metronome, but as a tide pool, filling and emptying with each beat. Calcium ions spark the contraction of muscle fibers, then retreat, then return, all in less than a second. Each beat is a cycle of readiness and release, tension and rest. Matching that cycle with another person's is like standing in the same shallow water, feeling the same waves lap at your ankles. The science continues beneath the poetry. Your baroreceptors, sensors in your arteries, feel the stretch of each beat and send signals up to the brainstem. The brainstem adjusts vessel diameter, heart force, and breathing in tiny, constant negotiations. When two people are close enough, those negotiations can overlap, settling into a shared compromise. The result is what you feel now: steadiness. That doesn't belong to you alone. You wonder if Trevor notices it too. Maybe his awareness is drifting somewhere else. Maybe he is simply enjoying the calm without needing to name it. The beauty of such synchrony is that it works whether or not you pay attention. It is an old language, older than speech, carried in pressure waves and electrical pulses. The rain outside has slowed to a fine mist. Each drop that hits the window seems spaced to match the beats you hear, though you know it is only your perception bending to the moment. The brain loves coherence. When it senses patterns between sound and sensation, it locks them together, creating the illusion that the world is breathing with you. Your own thoughts begin to soften at the edges. The analytical part of your mind, the one that measures, names, and explains, starts to rest. What remains is the listening. Listening as a way of being. Listening as a form of trust. You think of the heart's electrical signal, the P wave, the QRS complex, the T wave, a repeating landscape drawn by an ECG, each peak and valley marking the effort and recovery of cardiac muscle, even imperfect. Calm, these shapes remain, proof that rest is not absence of work, but work in a gentler form. Trevor shifts again, and the sound of his heartbeat changes slightly, more distant now. You find your own pulse in your neck and match it for a while, noticing the warmth under your fingertips, the slight push against the skin. Here is your proof. You are alive in the same second as another, both bodies ticking forward in the same. Invisible current. The science tells you that such moments can leave traces. Studies show that people who experience synchrony, whether through music, dance, shared breathing, or simple proximity, often report feeling closer, more understood, even without words. Physiological alignment can ripple into emotional alignment. Perhaps that is why the room feels softer now, as though the air itself has agreed to move more slowly. You let your awareness drift outward again. The rain, the faint creak of wood as the house settles. The way Trevor's breath sometimes catches, almost like a laugh in sleep. All of it joins the same rhythm, the same low tide of sound and sensation. In the quiet, heartbeats are not only a measure of time, they are an offering. Each one says, "I am still here." And hearing it, you answer without speaking. So, am I? You stay with the rhythm until it becomes part of the silence. And somewhere in that silence, another sound begins to emerge, a sound that will carry you toward the next chapter's unfolding. You lie still as the breeze lifts the curtain, and the room cools by a breath. A scent arrives before the air, earthy, green at once. You know it without naming. The ground exhales. Rain taps the soil's tiny doors, and the soil answers, petrichor. Follow the smell like a small boat following current. It carries the signature of living dust, molecules shaped by microbes who keep the ground in order. In dry spells, streptomyces distill geosmin, the note your nose hears as fresh earth. Drought holds it close. First drops break the seal. Raindrops strike, trap air, and pop. Each burst throws aerosols, upward messengers that slip in and find you. Your nose greets these messages with choreography you rarely notice. Inhale, and air curls through a maze built for smell, pressing molecules toward a thin, wet stage. The olfactory epithelium. Receptors wait like locks for keys. When a key fits, an electrical whisper travels to the olfactory bulb, sorting patterns of rain. Signals lean into amygdala and hippocampus, so odor steps into feeling and memory. Trevor's nose twitches. You mirror him and feel the body organize around the inhale, soften around the exhale. Heartbeat loosens, as if the smell unclenches the day. Odor is arranged atoms, yet the stories it unlocks weave through you like linen. Doing nothing includes smelling. The nose is a door that opens by itself. For a moment, the breeze carries a brighter, edge-sharp, metallic skyborne. Storms sometimes hint at ozone, sparked when lightning splits oxygen and recombines it. It reaches you in trace amounts, braided into earth notes like a silver thread in wool. Ground and sky shake hands during rain. Your attention widens to include both. Science named petrichor in the 1960s for two partners, Petra, rock, and ichor, the blood of gods. Researchers found plant oils shed during drought hide in stone and soil, loosening under rain to perfume the air alongside microbial geosmin. The earth is not one voice, but a choir. Water is the conductor's raised hand. Let imagination become. Microscope. Picture the first drop landing, spreading a thin disk, trapping tiny gas pockets, Microbubbles climb and burst. Each sends a cone of droplets upward. Physics at the scale of puddles carries chemistry to your nose, the same principle that sends sea spray from waves, the same elegant math of surfaces in air. Breathing grows slower as you keep listening with your nose. Smell is inseparable from breath. Each sniff is a small bell. Longer exhales invite the vagus nerve to rest its hand on the heart, and the heart agrees. Shoulders settle. Trevor drifts into a softer posture. The room becomes a terrarium for calm, warmed by bodies and cooled by air. A memory arrives with quiet authority. A childhood porch. A tin roof speaking in syllables. The first monsoon after a long year. You are not there, and you are there. The hippocampus taps the shoulder of the present, and the two moments share tea. Psychologists call it autobiographical memory. Your body calls it belonging. The smell writes a bridge and walks you across. Consider how the brain labels odor without a grand lobby. Unlike vision or hearing, smell skips the thalamus and slips in by a side door. That shortcut makes aroma persuasive. It can move mood with a handful of molecules. Intention catches up later. Tonight, persuasion is gentle. Lie down. Let rain. Work without your help. The window ticks as wood swells and eases. Somewhere a gutter gulps, then runs smooth. Beneath you, roots taste the new water. In the soil, fungal hyphae extend like pale handwriting, connecting plant to plant in exchange sugars for minerals, warnings for shelter. Rain is not only for thirst. It is for conversation. With time, the scent changes. Early moments favor. Ozone and dust. Later, leaves speak up. Plant volatiles green, peppery, sometimes floral rise from wet cuticles. The air tastes greener now. Your mouth waters. You swallow and smile at the body's sincerity. It does not pretend that air is not food. Trevor rolls, presenting his back to the breeze, and you understand. Comfort is a science you can feel. Thermoreceptors read the cool and send news inward. Vessels at the skin open to trade heat for ease. Muscles drift toward neutral. The spine remembers its axis. Even the eardrum, freed from grimace, receives rain more sweetly. To call this doing nothing undersells quiet negotiations in every tissue. Think of desserts where rain arrives like a guest from legend, and how seeds there live as instructions more than plants, waiting for the chemistry that says now. A few hours of wet can trigger germination, purpose written in timing and protein. Somewhere in you, similar instructions wake. Rest when rest comes. Grow when water is here. Another thread of science leans in. Humans detect geosmin at astonishingly low. Concentrations parts per trillion, perhaps, because finding fresh water long mattered. Fish respond to it. Winemakers guard against it. Beekeepers note the flavor. The world negotiates with the same molecule, each species reading it for its own needs. Your need tonight is recognition. The earth is speaking, and you can hear. Open your eyes. Streetlights enamel the road. The curtain breathes. The smell thins, thickens, thins, like a tide finding shape. Attention itself seems scented. Focusing on smell narrows sound. Vision softens to make room. Senses share a budget. When one spends, the others save. Balance is not stillness, but wise accounting. A small joy expands behind your ribs. It arrives like moss, quietly claiming rough places. Rain cleans the air, sweeping particulates down and leaving fewer irritants to scratch the lungs. Kindness at micron scale makes room for kindness at human scale. You feel rinsed, not erased. You taste the word petrichor stone and myth together. And notice how names steady experience. To name is not to trap. It is to set a bookmark. Later, when the window is closed and the room ordinary again, you can return here, brown-green air, time feeling soluble. The sense that earth wrote you a note. Another. Inhale. Another lesson. Odor molecules bind, detach, vanish. Receptors reset. The olfactory bulb revises its map in tiny edits. Experience tightens what was blurry. Smell is practice as much as perception. The gentler you attend, the more of the choir you can hear. Rain slackens. What was chorus becomes duet, then solo and pause. The scent lingers as a low echo. Let the tongue rest, the jaw unclenched, the gaze soft. The chapter does not end. It dissolves. Microbes return to their factories. Plants button leaves, and soil resumes its patient work of making tomorrow from today. You keep breathing the faint green of the room. Somewhere beyond the window, the night changes key, and you wonder what the next quiet will teach when it arrives. The rain changes the room without touching it. Outside, droplets fall through the streetlight's beam, scattering light in small arcs. That scattered light bends through the window and lands on the walls, moving in slow, liquid shapes. You watch them without meaning to, your eyes tracing each curve as if reading an unspoken sentence. Shadows swell and contract, soft-edged, as though the walls themselves are breathing. They lean one way, then drift back, keeping pace with the irregular tap of rain on glass. The shapes fade into one another, never truly beginning, never truly ending. It feels less like watching, and more like being watched by something without urgency, without need. Trevor shifts slightly beside you, his half-closed eyes following the same drifting patterns. The two of you are anchored in the same gentle spectacle. There is no plot to these shadows, no task hidden in their movement, and yet your body responds. Shoulders soften. Breathing eases. Your gaze is steady, but not fixed. You have slipped into what scientists sometimes call smooth pursuit, when the eyes follow motion without jumps or interruptions. Smooth pursuit is different from scanning a page or searching for an object. Those require quick, jerky saccades bursts of muscle and focus. Smooth pursuit is more like floating on a slow river, the eyes matching the speed of what they see. This simple act recruits the visual cortex and motor systems in a way that can quiet the rest of the brain. Motion that is slow and predictable gives the nervous system permission to relax. The brain evolved to notice sudden changes, a flicker in the grass, a shadow darting where it shouldn't. That vigilance keeps us safe. But when movement is steady, the alert systems dim like a lantern being turned low. Your amygdala, the brain's threat detector, reads the scene and finds no reason to sound the alarm. Parasympathetic pathways take the lead. Your gaze catches a shape that resembles a slow-turning leaf. Another seems like the outline of a bird, wings folding and unfolding. The mind, always ready to find meaning, offers these forms without being asked. This is pareidolia, the tendency to see familiar shapes where none are intended. It is a harmless trick, one that can feel like play. The rain provides raw material, and the brain sketches softly on top. You notice that time itself feels slower when you watch the wall. The second stretch, the minutes loosen their grip. Researchers studying flow states find that sustained, gentle attention to a single sensory input can alter time perception. You are not measuring time here. You are inhabiting it. Trevor's breathing matches yours now, a quiet metronome behind the moving light. You think of the optic nerve as a river carrying information to the brain's visual centers. From there, pathways fan out not only to areas that map shape and color, but to regions tied to emotion and memory. That is why the scene is not only seen, but felt. Light itself behaves like water here, refracted by droplets into softened beams. Physics calls this scattering, the way particles disrupt and redirect light. The same principle makes sunsets glow and clouds widen. Tonight, it turns an ordinary wall into a shifting canvas. You try an experiment. You close your eyes for a few breaths, then open them again. The motion feels more vivid after the pause, as if your visual system has been rinsed. Intermittent. Viewing can sharpen perception. The brain is more attentive after a brief rest. And yet, even at its sharpest, this attention remains calm. The rain slows. The shapes stretch more languidly, their edges fading as clouds thin. Your eyes follow, them less for information and more for companionship. The visual field becomes a kind of moving lullaby pattern without demand, change without disruption. In nature, similar motion exists. Kelp drifting under tide, tall grass bending in wind, the slow spin of stars. Each of these movements is cyclical, predictable, continuous. Humans, it seems, have always been drawn to them. Our eyes and nervous systems are tuned for comfort in these rhythms. It may be an ancient signal. This place is safe enough to pause. You lean into that safety. The more you watch, the less you narrate. Internal chatter slows to match the scene's pace. Thoughts arrive like the shadows shifting, merging, never needing to be caught. In meditation research, such focus on a simple, non-threatening visual stimulus is called open monitoring. You are aware of what you see, but not trying to control or label it. Trevor's eyelids lower again, the line between wake and rest thinning. You imagine his vision filled with the same patterns, the same pace. Sleep itself is a rhythm. Perhaps watching steady motion is a rehearsal for it. The occipital lobe quiets, and other brain regions begin to step toward the stage, preparing. Dreams. Outside, wind teases the rain into brief diagonals. Shadows on the wall respond instantly, shifting their angle, elongating before curling back. The room feels like a small planet with its own weather, light acting as the wind's translator. Gaze softens further, allowing edges to blur. This is not fatigue. It is the visual system's version of letting go. Acuity is highest at the center of vision, but peripheral sight is more sensitive to motion. Now you watch with the sides of your eyes, letting the scene arrive without aiming at it. This peripheral engagement can relax the oculomotor muscles and reduce strain, a small gift to tired eyes. You wonder how many nights have offered such shadows without you noticing. Perhaps this is what doing nothing allows, the chance to see ordinary walls as places of change and story. The rain and light do the work. You simply receive it. A faint memory surfaces, lying under a tree on a summer afternoon, watching sunlight filter through leaves. That too was a kind of shadow play, a slow dance of brightness and absence. Back then, you didn't think about why it felt peaceful. You only knew you wanted to keep watching. Now, science offers its quiet explanations, and you find comfort in them too. The wall becomes darker as clouds grow heavier again. Shadows fade toward uniform gray, but your body keeps the slower pace they taught. It is as though the nervous system has taken a photograph, not of the shapes themselves, but of their rhythm, and now carries it inside. Trevor exhales in a small sigh. You mirror it, feeling how breath and vision can meet in calm. The patterns may vanish soon, but the sense they leave will last a while. That is the nature of perception. What we watch shapes not only what we see, but how we feel in the minutes and hours that follow. You close your eyes once more. Behind your eyelids, faint afterimages linger, ghost shapes made from recent light. They drift there too, unhurried, carrying the echo of rain's scattered patterns. You realize that even without the wall, you could find these rhythms again, if only you remember how to look slowly. You keep your eyes closed, letting the rain's light continue somewhere inside you. And in that inner space, you begin to sense another presence, a sound so gentle it feels almost like touch.